Sir Edward. I trust you have had a pleasant day?
Very much so. And you?
If I'm honest, I've had to endure rather too much small talk from young men keen to impress me.
Like I said earlier, this is the moment they get the opportunity to be alone with just each other, catching up on how the day was at the shooting party. Yeah, they seem to be interested in one another.
Well, I can understand why they might be keen. But none has yet impressed you.
One? He is somewhat older than the rest.
Of good breeding and character.
Oh, indeed. He has a title.
A little secret, he revealed to her that he likes her in a way that she impresses him, because she was talking about how many young men trying to impress her, because of her beauty and her knowledge and the nice personality that she has. And Edward understands what those young men are seeing in her, and that's when he said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because you're beautiful, you are smart, and you know what you want. And she's like, what did you just say? And then she revealed back to him that there's one man that interests her, someone older than the rest of the other men that are trying to impress her at the party, and that one man is Edward.
As for his character, opinion varies.
And what is your uncle's opinion of this man?
I sense he is warming to him.
Then should this man speak to your uncle?
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, Edward, he seemed nice, but he can manipulate women very easily. Augusta needs to be careful. Really careful. Very careful. But she was right. Yeah, you have a title, you have good looks, but your character, still needs a lot of work.
Assure him that his intentions are honourable, that he desires nothing more than to prove himself worthy of you.
I would say no. Edward should never ever speak to Mr. Heybourne about Edward and Augusta. We already know Alexander is going to say no. He will prevent Augusta from seeing Edward for the rest of her life.
I believe he should.
At the same time, it's nice that Edward asked Augusta if he can have permission to talk to her uncle and see if her uncle will approve this relationship. It's not like he going to her uncle behind her back, In a way, he wants to make sure that they are on the same page. Lady Denham and Mr. Price are getting along really well. She still makes jokes about him, tease him. They say these sarcastic remarks about each other. They are very playful with one another. So things are looking up in this relationship.
Miss Hayward, may I ask you a question? When did you know you were in love with Mr. Starling?
Why'd you ask?
That tells me that Augusta fell for Edward really hard, and I'm like, please don't fall in love with him. He's not worth your time and your efforts, and he's not worth it.
No reason in particular.
Where is it? Find it. Yeah. Where is it?
I seem to have mistaken you for a pheasant.
I knew it was a mistake to wear feathers to a shoot.
Now Charlotte motherly nature comes to life. Charlotte's like, what is going on? Did you find a young man that you want to be with? But then Leonora interrupted them, and here comes the moment. Lydia is enjoying herself with these dogs.
Should we go in?
At least she likes dogs, which is something.
We cannot let this travesty occur.
What is to be done?
Ooh, he smiled at her. Okay, so he seemed interested in Lydia, at least as a friend. This is something. I thought he wouldn't be too interested in her like that, you know what I mean? But he smiled at her, so that's like the first. Okay, Lady Susan and Samuel are watching the action unfold like right in front of their eyes. Charlotte too, she talked to Lydia earlier about Alexander, and now she is seeing this happen in front of her. Like she said to Lydia, if you talk about dogs or horses, he would like you, and it is true, and it happened. It worked for Lydia. In that moment, Leonora, she's funny. She's like, oh man, like if Lydia becomes my new mom, you know, I mean, she's not the worst, but I'm sure that Leonora preferred Charlotte over Lydia as her new future mom.
Miss Heywood is to be married in a few short weeks.
Yes. But she's not married yet.
Lady Susan, like, she can be sassy and very determined. She's like, Charlotte's not married yet, like, we still have time, we're gonna make this happen. And Samuel is agreeing with it. He is tagging along with her, and I think it's funny at the same time. Like, no one, like, really paying attention much to them, and they're doing this thing behind Charlotte and Alexander back in a good way.
Might I ask why you take such an interest in Miss Heywood?
I recognise my younger self in her. And since I have no inclination to marry again, there is a vicarious pleasure to be had in setting her on the right path.
It's nice to hear Lady Susan talk about why she is so involved in Charlotte's life and why she is being a good friend to Charlotte, but at the same time she is hard on Charlotte because she doesn't want Charlotte to make the same mistake that Lady Susan did to herself when she was younger. But at the same time, she is explaining to Samuel, she mentioned about her intention not to marry again, like she's not focused on that. She'd rather be single and have fun and enjoy life to the point where she doesn't have to worry about a man. She just like go with the flow. And he sees Samuel like shaking his head in agreement. So to him, he's like, okay, me and this lady, like we have the same intention, the same plans for our future. Like we have like similar desires, like what they want in their own personal life. It's like they are on the same page, like on the same path. It's like they're in the same stage of their lives.
I could say much the same. Far too old and cynical to consider marriage for myself. But I have greatly wronged my brother in the past. So if there's anything I can do to make amends, I will.
They are definitely in the same stage in their lives, in their own lives. They are enjoying the single life. They think they are too old to get married. They think they are out of time in finding love. So they are enjoying their own single life. He mentioned that he wants to help Charlotte and Alexander out because he feels that he owed Alexander so much, especially when Alexander took over the house and the debts, and he went through a lot compared to Samuel. So Samuel wants to see his brother happy again, to find love again, and he sees something special between his brother and Charlotte.
It's not that I wish to interfere.
Oh, likewise, of course. But a little gentle encouragement.
I love it. I love the end of that scene. They are ready to do this, to help Charlotte and Alexander realize that they are meant to be together. Yeah, a little encouragement. It doesn't hurt. Like Lady Susan said earlier, like, we still have time. She is not married yet. So technically, there's still, a chance for Charlotte to change her mind and go back to Alexander.
Strange to think that we have known each other for such a short time, Arthur, given how fond I have become of you.
I could say the self-same thing.
Here comes the scene between Arthur and Harry. They are getting along very well, and it's nice to see Arthur finding a new friend in season 3, especially way better than Lockhart, especially after what happened with Lockhart in season 2 and in the first half of this season.
Then I suppose we are quite similar. Both bachelors by choice.
Quite so.
That is rarer than one might think.
They do have similar interests, some common things between them, and it's interesting how they are brought together because of Georgiana. But here comes the much more serious part of this conversation.
In my experience, most men enjoy pheasant. But I have always had a preference for grouse.
I'm gonna be very honest and very vulnerable, and some of you might hate me for this, but I don't care. I'm a Christian, and I always believe that marriage relationship should be between a man and a woman, and I know some of you already know that I am a Christian, and there is a chance that, I support that belief. But within the show, this happened, and I was very surprised. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm glad that I did not read the article about the future of Arthur storylines in season 3. I always assumed that he just wanted to be single. I was rooting for him to be with Georgiana. That was a no. He always had that excuse, like he wanted to be single, like he doesn't want to get married. And I just didn't see that coming until this scene, until this season. So the writers decided to take a different turn than I expected when it comes to Arthur's love life. He is feeling uncomfortable when Harry revealed to him that he likes men and that he might like Arthur as more than a friend. So this is a big revelation to Arthur. I have to say though, it's very brave of Harry to be very honest and very vulnerable to Arthur in this scene. That's a huge secret that he had been holding to himself for a long time. I think only his family knows, and Georgiana, and all the men that he had a relationship with. Those are the only people that know about Harry preference when it comes to relationship. Now he is telling Arthur, and this probably the biggest reveal he ever done to someone. So that's why Harry was hesitated. He was a little bit nervous. He put his dream down before he said it to Arthur, but he did it. So that takes a lot of gut to say those things to Arthur. But anyway, that's my honesty. That is where I stand on this storyline. I was gonna ignore it completely, but I feel I don't know, I don't want to kick Arthur out, and I do want to go through everything in season 3 because this is the last season, and I'm taking the time to to do this and to have a thorough analysis of every scene that we see in each episode. But that's my honesty. But yeah, I was very surprised that Arthur and Harry clash in season 3.
I am right in thinking you share my tastes, Arthur.
That was a little bit too much. When Harry said, you share the same belief opinion as me, I was like, you are too quick to judge on that part. And Arthur was just speechless, he didn't know what to say.
No matter. Be kind enough to forget this conversation ever took place.
And Harry took that, in a bad way. He's forget it, pretend that this never happened. It's too late, buddy. You said it, you said the words, now Arthur is freaking out. To me, this is something that Arthur never experienced before. Like no one told him like these things that Harry just told him. So this is like all new to him. In the way that, you know, it's expressing, you know, if he does like men too, like this is new to him. Like he never openly expressed that. He could, you know, be hiding it to himself too. And Harry came along, you know, and he ignited something in the scene. So Arthur, you know, it's a mess.
Miss Lamb, I just wanted to say how sorry I am.
Did you not hear? I won the case. My fortune remains mine.
Mr. Whitley had that conversation with Georgiana. We really didn't like see these two women like connect deeply in the conversation. Like I feel like they always like pass each other by. But finally we get to, you know, hear a conversation between these two women. And Georgiana was like, you know, like, what are you talking about? Like, I won the case. But we know from earlier, in a different scene with Mr. Whitley and Samuel, that Mr. Whitley has sympathy for Georgiana because she knew, you know, the bad side of this trial. Even though Georgiana won, you know, she lost a lot of things. She lost her mom and her dad.
I know, Mom, but I also know what you've lost.
The way that Georgiana walk away from Mr. Whitley, it shows that there are so many talks and gossip going on in town about Georgiana and the trial. Lady Susan talked about it earlier at the shooting party, and now at the end of the party, Mr. Whitley came up to her and talked about it. And I think the attention of the trial, the outcome of the trial, all the attention on it is getting to Georgiana's nerves, and I think that's why she abruptly left like that. She's just like, I'm out of here. The next scene, that's another thing Georgiana dealing with. She feels it even more. She's like, all the eyes, all the attention is on her, and she feels it greatly in that room, and she's like, I'm ready to leave. And fortunately, Charlotte was ready to leave too, so those two girls are ready to go back to the Parker house. That last look exchange between Charlotte and Mr. Heybourne, it was that look of like a goodbye, like a silent goodbye, because they both expected Charlotte to be going back to London after the shooting party. So Mr. Heybourne, like, you know, it's sad for him to see her leave, but at the same time, he thinks that he can't do anything much about it. He thinks that it's too late to convince Charlotte to change her mind. Then there was a moment between Mr. Price and Lady Denham. He is enjoying her company. He is enjoying the second chance in having a friendship with her and see how this relationship goes the second time around. He enjoying the social events in Sanditon. He went to Georgiana party and now the shooting party at the Heybourne house. He is enjoying his time, his visit in Sanditon. To talk about the past a bit, he has regrets. He knows what he lost when he said goodbye to Lady Denham in the past. And Lady Denham, she made a very strong statement. She doesn't have regrets. She doesn't believe in them. They serve no purpose. And that is so true. I love when characters in TV shows and movies say a line that probably doesn't mean much to you in that time, but if you look back on it and watch it again, you're like, wait, you know, that's a great wisdom, you know. What a way to live life, you know. Don't live life with regrets. It's hard to live a life without regrets, but that's her principle, that's her motto. That's how she rocked her independence. She's like, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy life as it is, like whether it's good or bad, like, you know, no regrets. That's who she is. I love her boldness of who she is as a person and as a woman, independent woman. At the end, she offered, another chance to Mr. Price to take her out on his buggy ride. And to me, it's a turning point for this character, Lady Denham. She is loving the time she is spending with Mr. Price, a second chance at love, possibly.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, I apologise for interrupting, but my gamekeeper informs me that the gun of the day, with 13 birds, is Sir Edward Denham.
I did not expect Edward to win. I thought it would be either Alexander or Samuel, but this could be a bonus for Edward, Maybe this will spark up an interest in Alexander. Like, hey, you really good at the game. Maybe, Edward winning the shooting game impressed Alexander even more, if that's even a possibility.
Well done.
Mr. Colvin, sir, there's something I must ask you.
Okay, first of all, just the wrong place and time to do this, buddy. Edward, don't do this.
I'm all too aware of my reputation, but I beg you to believe that I'm a changed man, and as such, that you will allow me the honor of calling on your niece, Miss Markham.
Edward is not wasting any time, right? So, and with Augusta's permission, he thought, okay, this would be a great opportunity to introduce myself to her uncle as a potential future husband of his niece. Mr. Heybourne, his reaction is, yikes.
You were the last person on Earth I would allow to court Augusta.
Augusta, she already knew. She's like, oh man, this is a no from my uncle. Bravery. Wow, Edward said it. But Mr. Heybourne, he does not approve. We already know he won't. He has high standards for his niece. And he knows that Edward is a bad man and not worthy to be anyone's lover. His reputation is so bad. Edward screwed himself since season 1, and it's hard to build back up your reputation, especially in public. So Mr. Heybourne is definitely protecting his niece. He doesn't want her to get hurt, and he knows that she deserves a better man.
My apologies,
At the same time, it's embarrassing. Augusta got teary and Edward got embarrassed. He looked embarrassed. He walked out of the room. Lady Denham, what in the world? Are you kidding me? And Edward is still under the care and the censorship of his aunt, with that program that he is in, with the priest and the doctor, try to get him to be a better man, but it's not working because he is chasing after a woman that is much younger than he is, but he wants the money, not Augusta. So this is a complete embarrassment for all parties involved. It's embarrassing for Lady Denham too, because she's just trying to arrest her nephew, but once a man is a man, you can't change a man, right? It's hard to change a man to do things the way you want him to do.
It is time I return to Ralph. He'll wonder what has happened to me.
I wish you could stay. You're one of the few people in this world I can depend on.
I could say the same.
Of course, Georgiana will be sad when Charlotte leaves Sanditon for good to go back to Wellington. Charlotte wants to stay true to her word. She's like, I have to go back to Ralph. Georgiana won the case, so Charlotte doesn't have to worry much for her friend anymore.
Georgiana, you are so loved. By me, the Parkers, and Otis, who clearly loves you as much as he ever did.
Charlotte saw something. She saw the spark was still alive between Otis and Georgiana when they met in London during the trial. Charlotte was always a supporter of Otis and Georgiana ever since season 1, while Sydney was against it. To me, Charlotte is showing her support to Georgiana. Like, it's okay if you want to be with Otis. This is a second chance at love with him. You have the freedom. Sydney's not around anymore. You have the freedom to be with who you want to be, that man that will make you the happiest.
And what good will that do me? Do you think he can protect me from further fortune hunters, from the judgment of society? What influence does he have? What position?
It's like a reality check for Georgiana. She's like, yeah, I loved Otis in season 1, and now he came back in season 3, but will he protect me? She had, those thoughts and questions like, okay, if it's Otis, like, is he gonna protect me? Is he, rich? Like, can he support me financially? She having these, like, question and thought, but at the same time, she having doubts about Otis, if he is the best husband for her in the future. But Charlotte, she seeing it differently. She's like, no, who cares about that? You love him, he loves you. He still loves you. Like, you should go back to Otis.
Lady de Clermont was right. I need to do whatever I can to protect myself. I would do better to continue my courtship with the Duke.
That isn't real.
Lady Susan's conversation earlier at the shooting party with Georgiana, it affected Georgiana so much to the point that she is thinking about it in this Harris fight. Georgiana thinks Harry is the best solution in regards to her future husband. She thinks that, Harry would be, the best man for the job to be her husband. But it's more of like a business match, not a love match. That's why Charlotte was like, no, that's not real. That's not real love, you and Harry. Like, you two don't love each other the way that Georgiana and Otis love each other. And Charlotte was brutally honest about that.
What is?
And then Georgiana, like, what is real? Like, I went through so many heartbreaks and, had a lot of relationship and broken relationship with men too, Larka and Otis. And now, she's dealing with Harry. She thinks that, Harry will fix all her problems. And that's, like, a bad perspective. Like, you can't be in a relationship because you think, that person gonna solve all of your problem, right? So Georgiana really need to deal with her own issues, and she truly need to be with a man that will love her. Because if she is with Harry, like, if they marry each other, like, just for, like, the business, aspect of it, like a business partnership, it's not gonna last long, or it's not gonna be a great relationship. In marriage, you want to be with someone that makes you the happiest, and Charlotte is warning her. She's like, no, don't be with Harry, like, you should be with Otis. And the other thing, they don't know that Harry likes Arthur, so that's gonna bring some conflict in this triangle relationship between Georgiana, Arthur, and Harry. Oh boy.
I do wish you'd spoken to me in private, my dear.
Just because I am Mrs. Tom Parker doesn't mean I'm not entitled to my own opinion.
Instead of undermining me in front of our home.
Oh boy, an argument between Tom and Mary. There are both sides to every argument, right? To every story. I can understand both sides and where they are coming from.
And I am allowed to voice them.
And Mr. Price, it is business, Mary.
Since when did you care only for profit?
I cannot afford to be sentimental.
It was an embarrassing moment for Tom because she basically scolded her husband in public in front of his colleague, his co-workers, Mr. Price and Mr. Heybourne. He didn't expect his wife to do that and to say those things in front of those men. Mary, on the other hand, I can understand. She's like, you didn't tell me about what's going on. You didn't keep me in the loop. She's like, you cannot, hush me forever. Like, she does have the right to form her own opinions on things in life, And this hotel planning is something that interests her, and she is very concerned about the well-being of the people that will be affected by this new hotel.
A good day. Even if you did shoot more birds than me, I forgive you.
Very gracious of you.
Alexander did better than his brother Samuel. That's nice to know how that went, the competition between the two brothers. But Alexander, watching the fireplace, we know he is thinking of someone, particularly Charlotte.
No wonder you're grappling with your conscience, brother. She is quite magnificent.
Who is?
I'm a lawyer, Xander.
Lady Susan and Samuel team up together, right? And now Lady Susan is like off to Charlotte, and Samuel is off to his brother. Right now in this scene, he is right. Samuel is a lawyer. He knows, when things are happening without even saying it. He has been observing Alexander and Charlotte from the moment he set his feet in Sanditon.
I know when people are withholding the truth from me, and on occasion, from themselves. And I am in no doubt that you are hopelessly in love with Miss Heywood.
Alexander not trying to show his reaction, his facial expression, so that's why he turned back toward the fireplace. But the moment that Samuel revealed to him that he knows about the romance between Alexander and Charlotte, Alexander looked up. He's like, oh man, my brother caught me. He knows me so well, and it's a big moment, because in a way Samuel is encouraging his brother, like, hey, admit it, admit that you still have feeling for Charlotte, and maybe you should do something about it.
And I can state with some confidence, she shares your feelings.
She's to be married.
Usually when someone tells another person, like, oh, you like him, you like her, you should tell them, and then that person, the victim would be like, no, I deny it. They would try to deny their feelings for that particular person. But in this scene, Alexander didn't deny, he didn't argue. He basically, quietly accept that as a fact. He's like, yeah, I still have feeling for Charlotte, but he didn't say it. But the way that he responded, well, I can't do anything about it. She is about to get married. So it's like, he knows that in his heart that she's still in love with Charlotte, and he is agreeing with his brother, without any argument. He didn't deny it, you know what I mean? So he's like, yeah, you're right, but I can't do anything about it.
She is not married yet.
However, Samuel copied what Lady Susan said earlier, Charlotte is not married yet. So he took that line from her and said it to Alexander in the scene. And Alexander, it motivated him somehow, he's like, wait, yeah, you're right, okay, I still have a chance, but how he gonna show it or prove it to Charlotte? Charlotte is about to leave Sanditon to go back to London. There is a book in her hands, and that was the book that Ralph bought for her before he left Sanditon after Georgiana's birthday party. So that book holds some sentimental value for Charlotte, and it represents the love that Ralph has for her. He bought that book for her. It's a new edition by that author that has money, you know? So he truly loved Charlotte, but does she love him in return? Then we head off to Augusta. She is crying, she is sad, she is heartbroken. You know, that kind of like that feeling of like your first breakup in a way. But yeah, it's good though that Mr. Heybourne said no, because it's just so wrong. And I still don't understand why the writers decided to, you know, do this storyline for Augusta. I just wish she had a better man, like a man closer to her age. I would love to see that happen, you know, before the end of the season, but they decided not to, and decided to keep Edward in the show and have him go through the trouble with Augusta. Georgiana is thinking about her future. Otis, Harry, which one? She picked up that note from Otis, showing the address of his home, and he wrote it at the end of the note, forever yours, oh. And to me, you know, he still loves her. Augusta and Leonora shared a very nice moment together. I'm really glad that they got closer to each other. They have a better relationship with one another in season 3 compared to season 2. It's nice to see that close sister relationship they have with one another, even though they are technically cousins, but they're more like sisters to each other. Augusta is very sad. In the meantime, Edward, he is having a moment to himself. He doesn't seem too sad or too upset. He picked out a flower and begins to write, and my guess is that he is writing either a letter or a poem to Augusta. He that type of guy that doesn't give up easily, so I wouldn't be surprised if he still tried to pursue Augusta. Charlotte is definitely thinking about her future. Ralph or Alexander, does she really want to leave Sanditon? I don't think so. She is holding that book from Ralph in her hands. It's kind of like, you know, the sea or the book, you know, the sea, the water, the ocean represent Alexander. The book represent Ralph, you know, like, do I want to stay here with this amazing view of the water, or should I go back to Willenden with this book to Ralph? She is contemplating about her future decisions, and hopefully she realized that she shouldn't go back to Willenden. She definitely sees herself in Sanditon for the future. Okay, maybe Edward is writing a letter to Augusta. That flower, to me, I think that's the orchard flower, right? That flower is like symbolizes motivation for him as he writes this letter to Augusta. And with him writing that letter, it tells us that he is not giving up on her easily. And we all know he is all about her money. I don't think he truly likes her in that way, you know? And he plays it so well. Ugh. I was like, go Alexander, go! I keep calling him Mr. Heybourne, but now there are 2 Heybourne brothers in season 3, so I have to like say the first names. But I'm so glad that Alexander decided to be brave and go out of his comfort zone and chase after Charlotte. I'm so excited to talk about the last scene of this episode in a minute or two, but first he is chasing after Charlotte, and then the next scene is Georgiana burning the paper, the note from Otis of his address, and I'm like, why do you do that? Like, what's that supposed to mean? Like, does that mean you don't want to be with Otis anymore? Like, you rather pick Harry over Otis? A little fan moment. So I did not watch the first episode of season 3 like live, like on time. I watched it like when I got home late that Sunday night, and I watched the first episode. I was like, oh my gosh, like the intensity, the sparks between Alexander and Charlotte, like, it's on a whole new level in season 3. Like, this is so good. The momentum of, you know, like that momentum of like, oh, like you want this couple to happen, you know? And that's when I bought that PBS passport and watched until up to episode 3 because I spoiled myself on Twitter on purpose, and I'm like, oh my god, this scene happened in the 3rd episode, so of course I fast forward, you know, I speed up to episode 3 on PBS passport, and I'm like, oh my god, like my heart is beating. Charlotte, you know, her heart is beating too in the scene. She's like, what is he doing here? And my first thought when I first watched this for the first time, I was like, recalling back that moment in season 1 when Charlotte was leaving Sanditon and Sydney was coming after her. And I thought, you know, there was still some hope, but that failed. And now here we are. She is about to leave Sanditon, and Alexander is trying to stop her.
Miss Heywood, I was on my way to find you
Why?
because I cannot let you leave Sanditon again without telling you in plainest terms how devoutly I admire you.
Sorry, I have to break it up because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. YouTube have been really nice to me, thank God. But I think I have been following the rules very well, so everything is good on uploading these reviews so far. So finger crossed, I'm smooth sailing to the very last review of the last episode of this season. But in this segment of this conversation between the two, Charlotte, she knew in her heart what this about, but she was like afraid, a little bit nervous, like, you know, that it might be true, you know, that he is wanting to talk to her because he is about to admit his feeling to her. I'm pretty sure she had that expectation, but she just, you know, a little bit anxious that it might happen right now. And he is starting to reveal his feeling to her right off the bat. And I'm like, kudos to him, like, good for him, like, let's get this, you know, talk out.
Every day of my life that is not spent in your company is a day wasted. And I fought in vain to deny it, but I'm in love with you, Miss Heywood.
Miss Heywood's Charlotte, she like started to get teary a little bit. All the emotion of like spiking up in her. She's like, oh my god, this is happening, And I still get butterflies watching this scene. Like, it's so impactful for both of these characters. He said the words, he is in love with Charlotte. He wants her, he is dying to want her, you know what I mean? Like, he's just desperate in the good way. He's like, I really, really want you to be with me. Like, stay in Sanditon for me, for us, and for our future together. Wow. It looks like she fell in, like she got close to him and he got closer to her and bam, like they hit. So to me, I think she initiated the hit because she was like getting closer to him and he took that as a yes and they just like dive in into this romantic, passionate kiss, multiple kisses. I think they kiss at least twice in one moment. Anyway, wow. This is a very heated moment in the good way. It's full of passion and romance and love, and you cannot deny it. These two have something special with one another. Before I forget, I like how they like grab onto each other, and even though they broke up and the drama and all that, they just like pick up where they left off. Like they hit each other like so easily. Also, it's funny at the same time during the book from Ralph like just naturally fell off her hand, and I'm like, bye Ralph. Like you don't stand a chance to be with Charlotte. Alexander won this bachelorette game, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was a great hit moment, and unfortunately, she said no after the hit. I'm like, why do you hit him and say no afterward? Like, what the heck?
You should have done that. You shouldn't have said that.
My only regret is that I didn't say it sooner.
Then why didn't you?
Remember that scene at the end of season 2 where after he fired Charlotte and then he to her at the Parker house, and she had that emotional moment after he left, like, oh, enough, like she had enough. He had that moment like right before he opened the door to exit, like he had that hesitation, and if he turned around and went back into that living room and told Charlotte that he made a mistake and to make it right with her, we wouldn't have, had this scene right now. That's why she's like, why you didn't tell me sooner? Like, you should have told me, like, before I got engaged. Like, you should have told me, the moment I arrived back in Willenden, or right before I left Sanditon, or, even sooner than that, but he didn't. She's like putting the blame on him. But in all honesty, a relationship, there are two ways in a relationship. So Charlotte could have, said it to him, but he is saying it to her, his feelings for her, and I just love that message, like the man is chasing after the lady, and I always support that. That principle, like, I think the man should chase after the woman. I think it's a beautiful thing when that happens, and that's what he is doing with Charlotte in this scene. I love the chase that he has for her in season 3, and it's beautiful to watch because, he knows it in his heart, he loves her, and now Charlotte had to say it back to him. But right now, the answer is no.
I'm to be married.
Stay. Make a life with me.
She's like very determined to marry Ralph. She wants to keep that promise, and she doesn't want to cheat on him. She feels bad if she leaves him in the ditch. And I'm like, girl, you shouldn't. You shouldn't marry Ralph. You're gonna be miserable for the rest of your life. You're gonna make a huge mistake if you pursue the wedding with Ralph. And Alexander, he was very firm. He's like, stay. No, stay. Make a life with me. And I'm like, that's like technically a proposal, like marry me instead of Ralph, basically. At the same time, it's like he is hurting her again, you know what I mean? Because she's just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I knew we had something special, and you fired me. I didn't want to go back to your house as a governor. Like, we broke it off, and she has those like second thoughts, like, what if we actually got together and marry in Sanditon and be a family? But she settled for less. She got Ralph, and she just like on that track, like moving on from Alexander. All my attention and love for Ralph, like there's no more Alexander, and now he is like putting an obstacle on that track and telling her his feelings right now in this scene. And she's like, you gotta be kidding me, because she knows that she is making a huge mistake in marrying Ralph. And then she is hurting with this conversation with Alexander because he is telling her too late about his feeling. So she is emotional, she is hurt, and she is hurting for Ralph too, because she's like, I can't do this to Ralph.
I made a promise. To Ralph. To my parents.
I can understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, she is not married yet. She doesn't change her mind. I know it's bad. It sounds bad saying that, but you know, you don't want to make the worst huge mistake of your life by marrying the wrong person when you know it deep down that you are making the wrong choice. But she is very determined. She's like, I made a promise to Ralph and her parents, and it's sad at the same time because she'd rather satisfy them than herself, you know? Like, don't make others happy. Make yourself happy first, and then you can spread that happiness to other people around you. She shouldn't do that to herself. She is torturing herself by marrying Ralph just to make everyone else happy, but not herself. And I like how Alexander shook his head. He's like, no, you still have time to change your mind and come stay with me in Sanditon. This is hurting Alexander too, because he thought he had it, but now she is saying no to him. She feeling all the emotion.
It's too late.
What a way to end episode 3, right? It's like the climax. We reached halfway through the season, like we up there, like we are peaking. But they're both hurting. They both have like mixed emotion. You know, like the good and the bad. Like he did, you know, reveal to her his feelings, and that takes a lot of gut and courage to do that. And I'm sure he was proud of himself for saying those things to her, but you know, it was a disaster by the end of this conversation between them. You know, it's like so challenging, so complicated. It's like the good and the bad mixed in one pot. That's how I feel when I watched this scene for the first time. I was like, what is this mess? But it's a good way, it's a great way to end this episode. And you know, that battle, like, okay, he told her, will he, you know, say it back to him, you know, back and forth, or it gonna take us to the very last minute of the last episode of the season to find out if they are, you know, going to be together for the rest of their lives. I just wish maybe like in another life, I wish that we had more time to see them as a couple, you know, like if this scene, if it was different, like pretend like if this scene happened and they back together like officially, and then she tell Ralph like we off, like I'm back with Alexander. We would have like 3 episodes of seeing them as a couple, you know what I mean? Like seeing them in their engagement period and see them prepare for the wedding. I think that would be really adorable to witness that. But the way you know, this season was written and the timing of the season, only 6 episodes, the speed of these episodes tend to be faster than season 2, I would say. So it's challenging, you know. They try to get everyone's storyline to conclude. For now, episode 3 is my favorite episode of season 3. I just love the momentum. It's for Charlotte and Alexander's storyline in season 3. I thought it was great. I love the Lady Susan in Samuel involvement in this matchmaking adventure of Charlotte and Alexander. Thanks to Samuel, he encouraged Alexander to go after Charlotte, and he did. Alrighty, enough ranting. We will continue with episode 4. I can't believe we going to episode 4. I'm trying to get most of these done before my first day of my new job. I hope you like it. I hope you still enjoyed it. I know I was very honest about my opinions on some things that I mentioned in this video, but honestly, honesty, I think it's a good thing. So I'm gonna, say it as it is. But we are moving forward with episode 4, 5, 6 and talk about everyone's storylines and, enjoy these last episodes of the Sandy's Trail. As usual, comment if you have anything you want to share, give a like to show some support. Subscribe if you haven't. It's never too late. I still have the playlist on my channel for season 1, 2, and 3. So if you're like behind, you have all the time in the world to look back on those and see what I say about season 1, 2, and 3. But for now, I hope you well, and I'll see you soon with episode 4. Bye.